I truly can't believe that this is my last wrap up of 2025. What is time? Where does it go? It doesn't exist in my brain, and then all of a sudden it's a year later. But in December, I did read 7 books, which is not my best month, but not my worst month. Honestly, 2025 was a year of me just letting myself read when I want to read. It is my job, so there is a little bit more than just that, but not pushing myself to read just for the sake of reading. We learned to DNF, we learned a lot of things about reading, and being very happy with exploring other hobbies, giving myself more time to do other things while still existing. My job is supposed to be 40 hours a week. It's not supposed to be my entire life, which is kind of what it was before. And I feel like in 2025, I'm starting to understand work-life balance a little bit better. A little bit. We still have lots to work on, but hopefully 2026 is the year for that. Honestly, I was lazy though, and I don't have stats for you like I normally do. I did not really fill out my sheet properly, so I do not have my pages read or anything like that. I'm so sorry. See you in 2026 with more of that. But I do have my star rating breakdown, which I gave out 1 5-star, I gave out 4 4-stars, 2 3-stars, 0 2-stars, and 0 1-stars with an average rating of 3.86, which is my 3rd highest month. So not too shabby, Cassidy. And then genres, I read 3 fantasies, 1 thriller, 1 horror, and 2 fantasy romance. Also, fun fact, this month I didn't own a single one of these books physically. I started the month off very strong with my 5-star. I read Dungeon Crawler Carl 5. This is my favorite in the series. Until this point, I've been giving them 4 stars. They've just been missing a little thing that's been like, this is the best book ever, and I'm absolutely obsessed. Even though I'm obsessed with the series as a whole, this was my first 5-star. I just feel like there was so much growth in here from the characters. There were some really devastating moments that really broke my heart. There were some really like good moments of character growth, and like just a moment where I was like, yes, I've been waiting for this the entire storyline. I'm just so attached to these characters. I'm also attached to side characters that I'm never gonna see again, which I think is such a strong writing thing. Like, for an author to make me feel this way, knowing that this character is not permanent, is also pretty incredible. Dungeon Crawler Carl, the first one, follows Carl, who steps outside to chase after his ex-girlfriend's cat when aliens take over and they essentially smash the planet. Every single building goes poof and just gets squished. And so if you're in a building, you're dead. You're gone. You're unalived. But of course he's outside of the building. Anyone left over is given a choice. They can stay on Earth, which is now gonna be like really hard to survive on. Like, it's desolate now. Or you can go enter the dungeons and become a crawler. And so Carl enters the dungeons, and there the story kind of begins. The dungeons are like these video game-esque things where like Carl is now leveling up his fists and gaining weapons and opening like chests that he's received for doing things and getting acknowledgements and things like this. And there's this grand like AI who's talking over everybody and things like that. If you've played any sort of video game that's like RPG-ish or like adventure open world, I think that you'll relate so hard to some of this. Like, as me being in my video game era, I definitely enjoyed reading these and playing video games and just seeing the little connections and seeing the love this author has of video games, and that genre has been really exciting for me. And so each book in this series is essentially a level in a video game. You're on a floor, you have to escape, there's a boss at the end. It in some ways is very repetitive, but there's also this really beautiful conversation overscoping the whole story of taking down capitalism, because that's what this whole thing is in the end of it. But not just taking it down, but also just critiquing it, because we talk about how we're all part of it. Like, we're all cogs in the machine. We're all struggling to make our living. It's not so easy to stop and take down the machine when your livelihood revolves around it. I think that is very interesting and very nuanced, because it's easy to say, let's take down the machine. Harder in actual practice. Doesn't mean we shouldn't try, but it is harder. I really loved the nuance of that. I loved the character growth in this story. And so in this 5th book, I really realized that I really cared about the NPCs on this level, knowing that they don't exist in the next level. When Carl and Donut and the gang go down, these are gone. I'm never seeing them again. And I was really rooting for them to survive and all of that. And I was like, I care about characters I know I'm not gonna see later. I mean, some of them do come back, but I don't know. I just feel like the character work in this is some of the strongest I've ever seen. I would compare it to Robin Hobb's character work because I just think it's so nuanced. It's so well fleshed out. There's characters you hate. There's characters you're watching really change and grow and adapt. And I just think the character work is incredible. And I love this story, and it's fun and it's quirky and it's campy, but it's also serious at the same time. And I am obsessed with it and so happy that I gave one 5 stars. Now that was a really, really large rant about Dungeon Crawler Call of 5, and we can move on to the next book. Oh, I do own one of these physically. I lied to you. I forgot that I read The Dark Mirror this month, which is the 5th book in the Bone season, which is a 7-book long series, so it's not completed yet, but this is the most recent out. Sadly, this was my least favorite in the series. I still give it 4 stars. I still really did enjoy it, but I do think books 1 to 3 are the strongest, and then 4 and 5 feel like side quests or like the same story over and over again. They kind of feel like Monster of the Week for me, which is not my favorite. There is a lot of character development and stuff in this, but besides what I said about Dungeon Crawler Carl and how I love the character work, I'm really a plot reader. I love plot. I need the plot to keep me forward in a book, which there is. Like, it's very fast-paced in Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is why it works for me. And this just felt a lot slower. It felt like we weren't getting to the core issues that I want to see us get to. I did like seeing some of the characters that we've seen before in the series. In this one, I did like a lot of elements, but I just struggled with the pacing and wanting to push myself through and like feeling like we just did this entire story in book 4, and so it feels like a repeat of book 4, and this one's longer, and I just feel like it didn't need to be that long. The Bone season though is also a new obsession of mine, even though I feel like my tone of talking feels very different. I loved this series. It's one of my favorites of 2025. We follow Paige, who's a clairvoyant in our like dystopian world where clairvoyancy is seen as bad. If you have it, you're sent to prison or you're killed or whatever. Paige has worked her entire life in the criminal underground, working for a crime syndicate, and she's worked her way up to the top. So she has some level of protection, but when she uses her clairvoyancy at the wrong time, she's sent to a special prison, and there she unravels kind of the mysteries of the world, of clairvoyancy, of a lot of the things behind the scenes and those cogs that are working that little machine. It's really, really fun. It's a revolution. It's dystopian fantasy, and I think it's incredible and amazing, and I relate to Paige so hard. So this one was incredible. Even though this is my least favorite book in the series, it still had so many good moments. It still has such a unique world and concept, and like, although it is our world technically, there's just so many elements to it that I really, really appreciate. I also can appreciate this book for what it is and what it's doing, and how part of why I love this series is how fleshed out everything feels, and books like this do help that, because of course, even though things are happening in one area, things are happening in another area. I liked that like characters we met in book 2, we're seeing them now in book 5, and they have a life that they've lived, and they have to tell us about that life they've lived. Like, it feels fleshed out because of course they didn't just go to sleep for 5 books. They did stuff at the same time as our other characters, and we didn't get to see it, but now we get to like see the consequences of all of those actions and things like that. So it does feel really, 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 really well fleshed out, which is something I'm learning I love about longer book series that I wasn't expecting. Even though I feel like there is some slumping in them sometimes, like this felt like the slump book for me. This is kind of setting up a lot of things, so I feel like it has middle book syndrome a little bit. I do love how like grand scheme these like long series feel, and so I need to find myself a couple other ones. I think 7 books might be like solid for me. I know Dungeon Crawler Carl is supposed to be way longer than that, but I do think like more than 7 is maybe a little bit too much. 5 is probably perfect, but if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. After that, I read The Last Town, which, to be honest, I read all of these books for the exact same vlog. I literally only did one vlog in December, so if you want to see in-depth thoughts, check that vlog out. It was my I Can't Stop Reading Until I Finish 8 series. It had been a long time since I had picked book 2 up, like almost exactly a year, to be honest. My tragic flaw is that I need to read things back to back. I need to stay consistent with my series, which is something I'm learning more and more as I continue this reader DNF journey that I'm going on with completing my series spreadsheet a little bit, because I struggle to reconnect to characters and then to care about the story after it's been some time. I think I need to like live with my characters a lot more. I need to stay consistent with their journeys. That doesn't mean I have to read them back to back, but I need to read them in a quicker time frame than a year, because this could have been a 5-star if I was a little bit more connected to the characters. I really liked where the story went. I thought the plot really like sweeps you away. It takes you really quickly into what was last going on, but there were things that I probably should have cared more about that I didn't care about because it had been a year and I was like, I don't even know who these characters are right now. I'm just here for the vibes. But I overall really did enjoy this, and I felt like it was a really good final book. It tied a lot of things up but also left some questions, which I did appreciate. And I love Blake Crouch, so I need to read more from Blake Crouch. He always writes some really cool like sci-fi-ish things. This is kind of like a sci-fi thriller. I don't really want to tell you what it's about. Essentially, a man wakes up in a town and he doesn't really remember anything. And that's all I'm gonna say, because this is best to go in blind. I had watched the TV show, which I did like the TV show, but go in blind other than that. And if you haven't seen the TV show but you like the books, check it out. Next up, we have House of Shadows by Darcy Coates. It's a goal of mine to read Darcy's entire backlist, so I probably would have DNF'd this series after book 1 if that wasn't a goal, but I'm glad I didn't because I actually liked this one better than book 1. This is a horror romance. In the first book, we follow our main character who is put into an arranged marriage, but when she gets to this house, there's secrets in the house. Darcy Coates writes paranormal haunted house stories, so you kind of get the setup. In book 2, they thought they resolved things in book 1. Turns out they didn't. It's a whole new little adventure. I really like the vibes. I think Darcy Coates writes the best atmosphere that I've ever read. She just gets that like gothic, creepy, crawly sensation down so well. So I did really enjoy this. I liked that the romance wasn't perfect. They had problems within them that felt natural. I tend to find that in romance books, I don't really like it once they get together. And so I liked that at the start of this book, they were separated again and they kind of had to fall back in love with each other, because then we got like some good little moments and stuff. Darcy Coates does write really, really sweet male characters. Whenever you read like her horror romances, the male characters are definitely going to be like cinnamon roll men. So if you like that, maybe check them out. I wouldn't read this for the romance, but if you're a Darcy Coates fan, I think it was a solid part of her backlist. Her new ones are always better in my opinion, but her backlist is still good. After that, I read Shorefall. This one, it had been 5 years since I read book 1, so it really, really suffered for that. It probably should have just reread book 1 because I did enjoy book 1. And the thing is, I did enjoy book 2. I really did. I love the concept of this. I think Robert Jackson Bennett's world building is so unique in everything he does. I always am just obsessed with his world building. However, I'm never super connected to his characters, so even though this one did suffer from the 5-year gap, I also just never am like, oh my god, I love these characters and I want to breathe them in, which is why it took me 5 years to read the sequel. There is a third book in this series, but I did decide to DNF the series as a whole. I just know that there's nothing in me that's compelling me to pick up the third book anytime soon, and I'll probably feel very similar. 3 stars. I really liked the world building, but I don't connect to the characters, so I'm not going to give it more than 3 stars. And there's too many good books for me to continue on in a series that I'm going to feel that way. So I decided to bless and release this series, but I did give Shorefall 3 stars. I do think I might have liked it a little bit more if I had read it back to back, but I can't 100% say I was going to be obsessed with it. So it's always a struggle. Like, I wish that I could run an experiment and go back in time and now read it back to back and tell ya, but I can't. The world doesn't work that way. Next up, we picked up Brimstone, which was a very, very anticipated release for me since I loved Quicksilver. I gave Quicksilver 5 stars last year. It was one of my favorite books of the year. I gave Brimstone 4 stars, and so it's so hard when I talk about 4 stars that I still loved, but I was so disappointed by, because I feel like it sounds like I didn't like them, but that's not the case. The disappointment just like does come out a little bit. I think that Callie Hart has one of the coolest epic world buildings happening. Every time we got plot and world building, I was intrigued. I was eating it up. I was like, give me more of that. There's so much to this world. It feels very epic in scope. It feels very, very big and grand, and that's something I love and I want to learn all these little tidbits about. However, too much smut in this one for my personal liking. I'm someone who just wants like 1 or 2, maybe 3 smut scenes. There was a lot of smelling sex too, which is not my preferred. They could smell what they had just been doing and they talked about it a lot, and it gave me the ick. I didn't love the way sex was described. I didn't love all the scenting coming into it. I just didn't prefer the smut scenes in this, and that's valid and that's okay, but it did take away from my enjoyment a little bit. On top of that, I just feel like we had a lot of convenient things. There's something in the story that I really didn't love. I feel like something kind of took away some of the agency of the story. There's this thing that kind of just tells them what to do the entire story, and I feel like it felt a little bit lazy. I felt like we could have made our characters make those decisions on their own, and I really missed that of it. I just feel like it's not fun for me for when they're just like, oh, what to do next? Let's ask this thing and it'll tell us. I want to see the smarts, and I want to see how they figure out how they're gonna get through things and things like that. So that to me just wasn't my favorite thing. That's a hard critique because it was a stylistic choice that the author made. That's her choice of story, but it didn't work out for me. However, I still love these characters. I still love them so much. I still had so much fun with this world. I'm still excited for book 3. I feel like not a lot happened in book 2. I feel like it felt a little bit middle book syndrome. I feel like it felt like it could have been shorter because it was just setting up essentially the ending. But I do have a new favorite character, and I have a still love for Carrion, who I named an entire city after last year in Ramlathon. So I was really happy that he stuck by as one of my favorite characters in the story, because I was like, I can't unname the city in Ramlathon last year. So yeah, I liked that. The other thing that I could complain about is that our main character just felt good at everything. And I didn't feel like there was a lot of stakes in the story. I just knew things were gonna be okay at all times, which is not my preferred thing, but it's also really hard to give a story stakes because we know main characters have plot armor. So it's such a difficult thing to critique on because we also know this innately, but I just like to feel stressed when I read. Even though I know they're gonna be okay in the end, I just like this feeling to come over me, and it doesn't in this second book. It did in the first book, but it doesn't in the second book. And we finished the month off with The Mist Thief by L.J. Andrews, which is the third-ish book, also a standalone in the Everking series. I don't know what the actual series is called, but it starts with the Everking and then the Everqueen, and then we move on to the Mist Thief. Technically, Everking and Everqueen are a duology, and then the Mist Thief comes afterwards, but it can be read as a standalone companion novel, and I do think it can after reading it. I don't really even know what to say about this one. I love the Everking series. I have multiple copies of it. I thought that it was so much fun. I loved the banter between everyone. In this one, I feel like our characters fell really flat for me. I feel like the world, like the plot escalated too slowly. Like the pacing was off in this one. I really just struggled to love this. I wanted to love it so much because there's so much cool things about this world. All these characters have different magic systems. I liked the setup of this arranged marriage. I feel like our male main character fell in love way too fast after what he had been saying. Like, I feel like something just like switched in him at some point. I didn't get to see him falling in love. He just all of a sudden was in love. And I don't know, I just struggled. I wanted more side characters in this because that's something I loved about the Everking, is getting to know everyone and learning all their powers. I'm definitely a person who loves a whole like cast of characters in my stories. I've learned that over and over again. I don't like stories that are mainly revolving around 2 characters. I need some sort of side characters. I need good villains. I need to interact with more characters more often and have really good scenes with them, and that's what makes me love a book. And maybe that's what makes me feel like it's more like vast and like fleshed out because I'm someone with friends. I'm someone with different connections in my life. My life does not revolve around my partner, and I don't really want to read about someone's life that does. Even though I want to see them like falling in love, some of the best moments from those moments in my life were also me telling my friends about it, or things like that, or I don't know, just experiences that I've lived as a whole in my life added to my experience in my relationship. I'm not 100% sure, but I love a cast of characters, and The Mist Thief just didn't work out for me, and that's okay. I'm still gonna continue on in the series, I think, but not rushing to continue it. I'm just learning that that's okay. There's so many good books out there. I don't need to just sit here and rush to ones that I'm just not absolutely in love with anymore. It's freeing to learn that, so join me. My best book of the month was obviously Dungeon Crawler Carl, but I would love to know what yours was in the comments down below. I'll leave that vlog I talked about on the screen for you to check out in case you missed it and you want more thoughts on everything. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd just like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me some sort of ball emoji, and have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.